Commander Ta sat at his desk, reading the strange letter for the fifth time. The paper was not really paper. It felt like metal but bent like cloth. The words glowed slightly in the dim room. "This cannot be real," he said to himself, but the official seals and the way the letter had arrived. In a box that appeared out of thin air in the middle of a secure military base suggested otherwise. The letter read, "To Earth's finest warrior, Commander Ta. You are invited to represent your planet in the Galactic Combat Championship. Transport will arrive in 3 days." Ta was not a tall man, but he was strong. At 42 years old, his black hair showed a few silver streaks. His face, marked with a single scar across his right cheek, rarely showed emotion. Years of military training had taught him to keep his feelings hidden. As the head of South Korea's special forces, Ta had faced many challenges, but aliens, that was new. "Commander," a voice called from the doorway. It was Jin, Ta's oldest friend and chief tactical advisor. "Are you still looking at that thing?" Jin walked in without waiting for permission. They had known each other since they were children in the same small village. While Ta had grown up to be a fighter, Jin had become a thinker, with a mind that could solve any puzzle. "I think it's real, Jin," Ta said, handing over the letter. Jin read it quickly. "If this is real, it changes everything we know about the universe. If it's real, it means we're not alone. And someone out there thinks I'm Earth's best fighter." Jin laughed. "Well, your record speaks for itself. Undefeated in international combat tournaments for 15 years. But aliens? That's a different game." A soft beep came from Ta's computer. A video call was coming in from General Park, the highest-ranking military officer in the country. "Commander Tae," the general said, his face serious. "I assume you've received the invitation." Ta straightened in his chair. "Yes, sir. Is it confirmed?" "It is. Similar invitations have been delivered to military leaders in 7 other countries. All have the same message, but with different names. You were Korea's chosen one." Jin leaned forward. "Sir, does this mean first contact has been made?" General Park nodded. "The President is meeting with world leaders now. It seems the Galactic Council, whatever that is, has been watching us for some time. This championship is some kind of initiation for new species." Tae's mind raced. "And they want warriors, not scientists or leaders. Apparently, combat skill is highly valued in their culture. The winners of this championship earn their planet's resource rights and protection." The general paused. "Commander, you don't have to accept." But Ta knew he would, not for glory, but for Earth. If this championship could help protect his planet, his home, his people, there was no choice. "I accept, sir." 3 days later, Ta stood in an empty field with Jin by his side. They each carried one small bag with essential items. The sky was clear blue without a cloud. "Are you scared?" Jin asked. "No," Ta lied. He was not afraid of fighting, but the unknown was always troubling. Suddenly, the air in front of them began to shimmer. A circle of light formed, growing larger until it was the size of a door. Through it, they could see a metal room with strange symbols on the walls. A voice spoke from nowhere and everywhere. "Commander Tae and Advisor Jin, please step through the portal. The Galactic Combat Championship awaits." Tae took a deep breath and looked at the world he had always known. Then he looked at the doorway to the stars. "Let's go," he said to Jin. "Earth is counting on us." Together, they stepped through the light. The light faded around Tai and Jin. They blinked as their eyes adjusted. They were now standing in a large room with metal walls. The air smelled clean but strange, like nothing on Earth. "Welcome to Transit Station Alpha," said a smooth voice. A tall, blue-skinned being approached them. It looked almost human, except for the color and its 4 arms. "I am Lam, your guide. Please follow me." Tai and Jin exchanged looks but followed silently. They walked through wide hallways filled with beings of all shapes and sizes, Some had scales, others had fur. Some floated rather than walked. All of them stared at the two humans. "They look at us like we are animals in a zoo," Jin whispered. Lom turned its head. "Humans are new to the galactic community. Many have never seen your kind before." They entered a massive tube-like structure. Inside was what looked like a train car with no wheels. "The jump shuttle will take us to the arena station," Lom explained. "Please secure yourselves." As they sat down, straps automatically wrapped around them. The shuttle began to move, slowly at first, then faster and faster until the walls outside became a blur. "Preparing for space jump," a voice announced. 3, 2, 1. There was a flash of light, a moment of pressure, and then they were somewhere else. Outside the windows was a view that made both humans gasp. A massive space station hung in orbit around a purple-tinged planet. The station was shaped like a ring with spikes pointing outward. It was bigger than any city on Earth. "The arena station," Lom said proudly. "Home of the Galactic Combat Championship for the past 500 cycles." The shuttle docked with the station, and they were led to their quarters. The room was simple but comfortable, with beds that adjusted to their bodies and food dispensers in the wall. "Rest now," Lom told them. "The welcome ceremony begins in 6 hours." After Lom left, Jin immediately began examining the room. "No obvious cameras," he said, "but I'm sure they're watching us somehow." Ta sat on the edge of the bed. "We need to learn as much as we can about the other fighters." "And about the rules," Jin added. "Every competition has rules that can be used to our advantage." Hours later, dressed in their formal military uniforms, they were escorted to a massive hall. Hundreds of beings from dozens of species gathered in groups, talking and sizing up the competition. Lom guided them to a section marked with Earth's symbol. "The ceremony will begin soon. Try not to cause any incidents." As they waited, a group of large reptile-like creatures approached. They stood nearly 3 meters tall, with thick scales and powerful tails, their yellow eyes fixed on Ta with clear contempt. "So this is Earth's champion." The largest one spoke, its voice deep and rumbling. "You are smaller than I expected." Ta met its gaze without flinching. "Size is not everything in combat." The creature laughed, a harsh sound that made others turn to watch. "I am Vex, champion of the Krell, winner of the last 3 championships. You would not last 3 minutes against me, small human." "You seem very sure of that," Ta said calmly. Vex leaned down, his face close to Ta's. "I am sure, so sure that I will place a bet. 1,000 credits says you will not last 3 minutes in your first real match." Other warriors gathered around, amused by the confrontation. 1,000 credits the human fails in 2 minutes. "I say 1 minute. Look how fragile they are." The aliens laughed and placed more bets. Jin stepped forward, angry, but Ta held him back. "Let them bet," Ta said quietly. "It changes nothing." A loud gong sounded, ending the conversation. All eyes turned to the center of the hall where a platform rose from the floor. On it stood a group of aliens in ornate robes. "Welcome, champions," announced one with a voice that filled the hall without seeming to shout. "Today we honor a new species joining our galactic community. Let the 531st Galactic Combat Championship begin." Cheers erupted throughout the hall, but Vex's eyes remained fixed on Ta, full of mockery and threat. The real challenge was just beginning. After the welcome ceremony, Tai and Jin returned to their quarters. A message waited for them on the room's screen. "Assessment begins tomorrow at first bell. Combat clothing will be provided." "Assessment?" Tai asked. Jin checked the information packet they had been given. "It says here that all fighters must complete an assessment to determine their combat class. They put fighters in groups based on skill." Ta nodded. "That makes sense. It would be unfair to pit beginners against champions." Jin continued reading. "The assessment takes place in a special chamber. It creates fake opponents using light technology. The opponents get harder and harder until you fail." That night, Ta slept poorly. The bed was comfortable, but strange sounds from the station kept him awake. He thought about Earth, about his family, about what would happen if he failed. Morning came, announced by a soft bell sound. A package waited by the door. Inside were black clothes made of a material Ta had never seen before. The fabric was light, but felt as strong as armor. "These must be the combat clothes," he said, putting them on. They fit perfectly, as if made just for him. Lam arrived to take Ta to the assessment chamber. Jin would watch from an observation room with other advisors. "Good luck," Jin said. "Remember what we talked about. They will expect you to fight like them. Use that against them." Ta followed Lam through the station's winding halls. They passed other fighters heading to their own assessments. None spoke to the human. Finally, they reached a round door. "This is your assessment chamber," Lam said. "Most fighters take the full 30 minutes to complete the test. Some finish in 10 to 15 minutes. The record is 7 minutes, held by Vex." "What happens if I fail?" Tai asked. "Failure is expected. The test continues until you can no longer defeat the opponents. Your final level determines your class." The door opened, revealing a large empty room with gray walls, floor, and ceiling. "Enter when ready," Lam said. Tai took a deep breath and stepped in. The door closed behind him with a soft hiss. "Assessment beginning in 3, 2, 1, a voice announced. The room changed. Now Ta stood in what looked like a fighting ring. A figure appeared in front of him, made of glowing light. It was humanoid but with 4 arms like Lam. The light figure attacked without warning. It was fast, but its movements were simple. Ta easily dodged and countered, striking at points Jin had identified as likely weaknesses in this type of alien. The figure disappeared. A new opponent formed, this one larger and reptile-like. It moved differently, using strength rather than speed. Again, Tai avoided direct confrontation, using the creature's momentum against it. He struck precisely at the joints, where even strong beings are vulnerable. More opponents appeared, each one stronger and more skilled than the last. Some used weapons, others had special abilities like extreme speed or multiple limbs. Tai adapted to each, never trying to match strength with strength. He moved economically, wasting no energy, always striking at the most effective points. In the observation room, Jin watched alongside advisors from other worlds. At first, they had ignored the human, certain his fighter would perform poorly. Now they stared in shock at the screens. "That's impossible," one said. "He's using their own movements against them," another observed. The alien warriors who had gathered to watch began to murmur. The betting pool managers looked worried. Vex pushed his way to the front of the crowd. "What is happening?" he demanded. On the screen, Ta dispatched opponent after opponent. His movements were fluid, precise, perfectly timed. He showed no sign of tiring. Suddenly, the room returned to its empty gray state. "Assessment complete," the voice announced. "Time, 30 seconds. New record established." In the observation room, silence fell. Then chaos erupted as the aliens began shouting all at once. Jin smiled. Earth's champion had just changed the game. Ta walked out of the assessment chamber to find a crowd waiting. Aliens of all kinds stared at him with new eyes. Some looked curious, others worried, and a few seemed angry. Jin pushed through the crowd and reached Ta. "You did it," he said with a wide smile. 30 seconds. You broke every record." "It wasn't that hard," Ta said quietly. "The light fighters moved in patterns. Once I saw the patterns, I knew what they would do next." Lam approached them, looking confused. "The system is having trouble classifying you," the blue alien said. "No one has ever finished the assessment so quickly." "What does that mean?" Jin asked. "It means..." Lam paused, seeming unsure. "It means Commander Ta has been placed in the highest combat class. No first-time participant has ever achieved this." Whispers spread through the crowd. Ta could feel the mood changing. Where before there had been mockery, now there was uncertainty. How did you do it, human? A tall, thin alien with silver skin stepped forward. What technique did you use? Before Ty could answer, a loud voice cut through the crowd. Lies. There must be a mistake. Vex pushed his way through, his reptilian face twisted with anger. No human could complete the assessment so quickly. The system must be broken. The system is working perfectly, Lom said. The results have been confirmed. Vex glared at Ta. You cheated somehow. There is no other explanation. I didn't cheat, Ta said calmly. I simply fought in my own way. And what way is that? The silver alien asked. Jin answered. Humans don't have the natural strength of Krell or the speed of the Novans. We had to develop different fighting methods. We used the opponent's strength against them. Nonsense, Vex growled. Fighting requires power. The stronger fighter wins. Ta shook his head. Not always. A river doesn't fight the rock by being harder than stone. It flows around, finding the path of least resistance. Given enough time, even the smallest stream can carve through a mountain. The silver alien's eyes widened. Fascinating philosophy. A small, round alien pushed forward. It had one large eye and 6 tentacle-like arms. I lost 500 credits betting against you, human, it said. But I am not angry. I am impressed. Perhaps I will bet on you next time. Others in the crowd nodded. Some even smiled at Ta. But Vex and his fellow Krell warriors looked furious. This changes nothing, Vex snarled. The assessment is not real combat. In the actual tournament, you will face real fighters with real strength. You will not last 3 minutes against any of us. With that, Vex and his group stormed away, their heavy footsteps echoing through the hall. You have made quite an impression, Lom said to Ta. And some enemies, it seems. Will that be a problem? Jin asked. Lom's 4 shoulders moved in what might have been a shrug. The tournament has rules. As long as the fights remain in the arena, all is fair. And outside the arena? Tai asked. Outside the arena, be careful, Lom said quietly. Not everyone respects the rules. Later, in their quarters, Tai and Jin watched recordings of the assessment. Ta studied his own movements, looking for ways to improve. The betting records show that the Krell lost a lot of money today, Jin said, checking his datapad. They bet heavily that you would perform poorly. They won't make that mistake again, Ta said. Jin looked worried. No, they won't. They'll want revenge now. Not just for the money, but for their pride. Ta nodded, his face serious. Pride can be dangerous. It makes people take risks. It makes them make mistakes. Are you worried? Jin asked. Tai thought for a moment, then shook his head. No, we came here to show what humans can do. Today was a good start. Jin smiled. Yes, it was. But tomorrow, the real tournament begins. Word of Ta's performance spread quickly through the arena station. Aliens stopped to look at him when he walked by. Some nodded with respect. Others moved away, as if afraid. You're famous now, Jin said as they ate dinner in the common area. The food was strange but not bad, created to match Earth tastes. I don't want to be famous, Tay replied. I just want to represent Earth well. A shadow fell across their table. They looked up to see the silver-skinned alien who had spoken to Tai after the assessment. May I join you? The alien asked. Its voice was musical, like wind chimes. Ta nodded, and the silver being sat down gracefully. I am Sil of the Luminar, it said. I found your fighting style most interesting. Thank you, Ta said. I am. Commander Tai of Earth. Yes, everyone knows who you are now. Sil's eyes, which were large and purple, scanned the room carefully. I should warn you. There is talk among some fighters. They are not happy about your success. Jin leaned forward. What kind of talk? The Krell especially. They have dominated the championship for many cycles. They do not like that a new species, one they consider weak, could threaten their standing. Tai considered this information. Thank you for the warning. Syl stood to leave. Watch yourself, human. Not all battles happen in the arena. With that, the silver alien glided away. Later that night, in a private room on the other side of the station, Vex met with warriors from several other species. They sat around a table, speaking in low voices. The human made fools of us all, growled a furry being with tusks. My clan lost many credits in the betting. It is more than money, Vex said. If humans are truly this skilled as warriors, what will happen to the balance of power? Our species rule because we are the strongest fighters. A thin alien with 6 eyes nodded. The assessment results are already causing talk. Some smaller species are saying that perhaps strength is not everything. Dangerous talk, Vex agreed. We must ensure the human does not progress far in the tournament. How? Asked the tusked warrior. The fights are closely watched. We cannot simply cheat. Vex smiled, showing sharp teeth. We do not need to cheat. We just need to ensure the human faces the most difficult opponents in rapid succession. No fighter can win when exhausted. I have a contact in the tournament scheduling office, offered the 6-eyed alien. For the right price, they might arrange suitable matchups. Good, Vex said. And perhaps we should also make sure the human's equipment is not at its best. That could be arranged, the tusked warrior said with a cruel smile. The group continued plotting, unaware that their meeting was being observed. In the station's security center, Jin had convinced a small bug-like alien named Zik to help him. They're planning something, Jin said, watching the screen that showed Vex's meeting. Can you hear what they're saying? Zik shook his head. No audio in that section. But I don't need to hear to know what they're doing. The Krell always plan against strong newcomers. Can you help us? Jin asked. The bug alien's antenna twitched. I shouldn't. It could cost me my job. But, Zik paused. I like that your friend fought smart, not just with strength. Many of us smaller species admire that. Thank you, Jin said. We need all the friends we can get here. Back in their quarters, Tai was meditating when Jin returned. We have a problem, Jin said, telling Todd what he had seen. They're planning to make sure you face the toughest fighters with little rest between matches, and they might tamper with your equipment. Tai opened his eyes. Then we need to be prepared for both. Can you check our gear before each match? Jin nodded. Already planning to. And I'll work with Zik to see if we can adjust to any schedule changes. Good, Ta said calmly. Remember, Jin, their plotting shows their fear. They would not bother if they truly believed I would lose fairly. Jin smiled slightly. True, but be careful anyway. Always, Ta said, closing his eyes to resume his meditation. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, and he needed to be ready. The day of the tournament arrived. The station buzzed with excitement. Crowds moved through the halls, heading to the main arena. Tai and Jin checked the schedule one last time. Just as we feared, Jin said, pointing to the screen. You have 3 fights today. Most fighters only have 1. Ta nodded calmly. And who are my opponents? All high-ranked warriors. First is Grohl, a tusked fighter from the Vorax system. Then Micah, a 6-armed fighter. Last is Dren, one of the Krell's top warriors. 3 difficult fights with little rest between them, Ta said. They hope to tire me out. Jin nodded. I tried to protest to the officials, but they said the schedule was fair. It doesn't matter, Ta said, standing up. We knew this wouldn't be easy. They walked to the preparation area, where fighters got ready for their matches. Many aliens stared at Ta. Some looked curious, others hostile. Vex stood in one corner with his Krell warriors, watching with yellow eyes. Ta's first opponent, Grohl, was warming up nearby. The Vorax was tall and covered in thick brown fur. 2 large tusks curved up from his lower jaw. His arms were as thick as Ta's legs. Todd of Earth, called a small purple alien. Your match begins in 10 minutes. Please prepare. Jin helped Tai check his gear one last time. Everything seems fine. They haven't tampered with it yet. Good, Ta said. He began his stretching routine, moving slowly and breathing deeply. Soon, it was time. Ta walked through a tunnel into the main arena. The space was huge, with seats rising high around a central fighting platform. Thousands of aliens watched from the stands. Many more would be watching through video feeds across the galaxy. Grohl entered from the opposite side. The Vorax looked confident, raising his arms to the cheering crowd. Today's first match, announced a voice over the speakers. Grohl of Vorax, ranked 5th in the heavy class, versus Tai of Earth, making his tournament debut. The crowd roared. Tai could hear some cheering for him, but many more called Grohl's name. The fighters took their positions on the platform. A force field sprang up around them, creating the battle area. Begin, called the announcer. Grohl charged immediately, moving fast despite his size. He swung a massive fist at Ta's head. Had it connected, the fight would have ended right there. But Todd wasn't where the fist landed. He had moved slightly, just enough to let the blow pass by. The human didn't counter right away. He dodged another swing, then another, studying how Grohl moved. The Vorax grew frustrated. His attacks became wilder, less controlled. Fight back, Grohl growled. Tai continued to avoid the attacks, waiting for the right moment. It came when Grohl overextended on a powerful swing. Ta stepped inside the Vorax's reach and struck 3 quick blows to precise points on Grohl's body. The alien stumbled, suddenly finding his left side wasn't responding properly. What did you do? Grohl gasped. Tai didn't answer. He moved again, striking more pressure points. Grohl tried to defend, but the human was too fast, too precise. Within minutes, the massive alien dropped to his knees, unable to continue. Winner, Ta of Earth, the announcer called. The crowd fell silent for a moment, then erupted in mixed cheers and confused murmurs. Ta walked back to Jin, who waited at the edge of the arena. That was amazing, Jin said, but you have only 30 minutes until your next fight. I know, Ta said. That's why I ended it quickly. I need to save my energy. In the stands, Vex watched with narrowed eyes. The human won, he said to the 6-eyed alien beside him. Yes, but there are still 2 more fights today. No one has ever won 3 high-level matches in one day. He will tire. He will make mistakes. Vex nodded. And if he somehow survives today, we have other plans ready. Back in the preparation area, Ta drank water and rested. His next opponent, Micah, was already warming up. The 6-armed fighter moved with fluid grace, each limb seeming to have a mind of its own. This one will be harder, Jin warned. Yes, Tai agreed. But I'm ready. Ta's second match against Micah was harder than the first. The 6-armed fighter was fast and could attack from multiple angles at once. But Ta won by focusing on Micah's center of balance, which was the key to controlling all 6 arms. The crowd cheered louder for Ta this time. One more fight today, Jin said as they returned to the preparation room. Are you tired? Yes, Ta admitted, but I can continue. Ta had 1 hour before his final match of the day against Dren, one of the Krell's top fighters. He needed to rest and recover his strength. I'll get you some water and food, Jin said. You should lie down. While Jin was gone, Tai closed his eyes on the preparation room bench. He focused on his breathing, using meditation techniques to restore his energy. Jin returned with a container of water and some food bars. Here, eat these. They're made for humans. Tai took a few bites and drank some water. Almost immediately, he felt strange. His vision blurred. His heart beat faster. Jin, he said weakly, something's wrong. Jin took the water container and smelled it. His eyes widened. It's been tampered with. There's something in it. Get. Lom. Ta managed to say before he fell back on the bench. Jin ran to find their guide. They returned quickly with a medical scanner. He's been poisoned, Lam said after checking Ta. It's a toxin the Krell use. It would make a Krell weak and slow, but I don't know what it will do to a human. Can you help him? Jin asked, worried. I can give him something to counter some effects, but I don't know if it will work completely, Lam said. Human biology is different. Lam injected Ta with medicine. Ta lay still, his breathing shallow. His match is in 30 minutes, Jin said. If he can't fight, we forfeit. That must be what they wanted, Lam said. They couldn't beat him fairly, so they poisoned him. Jin checked Ta's combat suit while they waited. They've damaged it too, he said, finding small cuts in the material. It won't protect him properly. Do you have a backup? Lam asked. No, we only have what was provided. 20 minutes passed. Ta finally opened his eyes and sat up slowly. What happened? He asked, his voice hoarse. Jin explained about the poison and the damaged suit. You can't fight like this, he concluded. We should forfeit. No, Ta said firmly. Earth needs this victory. I will fight. But your suit is damaged, and we don't know what the poison will do to you. Ta stood up carefully. He felt strange, but not weak as expected. In fact, his senses seemed sharper, colors were brighter, sounds were clearer. His reflexes, when he tested them, were faster than before. I feel different, he said, but not worse. Lam ran the scanner over him again and looked confused. Interesting. The toxin seems to be having the opposite effect on human physiology. Instead of slowing you down, it's enhancing your neural responses. The poison is helping me, Tai asked. It appears so. Human biochemistry must process it differently, Lam said. But I don't know how long this will last, or if there will be side effects later. What about his suit? Jin asked. I'll fight without it, Tai decided. Better to have no protection than damaged protection that I can't trust. That's very dangerous, Lam mourned. The Krell are powerful. One good hit from Dren could cause serious injury. Then I won't let him hit me, Ta said simply. When the call came for his third match, Ta walked to the arena wearing only the basic clothes he had brought from Earth. The crowd murmured in surprise at seeing a fighter without protective gear. Dren waited in the arena. The Krell was slightly smaller than Vex, but still towered over Ta. His scaled skin gleamed under the lights. Where is your combat suit, human? Dren asked with a cruel smile. I don't need it, Tai answered. In the stands, Vex watched with anticipation. His plan had worked. The human would now be easily defeated. But as the match began, Vex's confidence turned to shock. The human moved faster than before, his reflexes seemingly impossible. The poison that should have weakened Tai had instead made him stronger. Dren charged at Tai as soon as the match began. The Krell moved with surprising speed for his size, his claws aiming to rip through the human's unprotected body. Ta waited until the last possible moment, then stepped aside with a fluid motion that seemed almost like dancing. The crowd gasped. Dren stumbled, caught off balance by missing his target. Before he could recover, Ta struck at pressure points on the Krell's back. Dren roared in pain and swung his tail in a wide arc. This time, Ta jumped over it, using the Krell's own momentum to land a series of quick strikes to his opponent's joints. Stand still and fight properly, Dren growled in frustration. Ta didn't respond. He continued his strategy of avoiding direct confrontation while striking at the Krell's weak points. The poison in his system had sharpened his senses. He could see Dren's muscles tense before each attack, giving him a split second of warning. In the stands, Vex watched with growing anger. This cannot be happening, he hissed to his allies. The human should be weakened, not stronger. Their biology must be more different than we thought. The six-eyed alien replied. We have made a grave mistake. Meanwhile, Jin was recording the match carefully. He noticed that more aliens in the crowd were now cheering for Ta. The human's skill and bravery in fighting without protection had won their respect. Back in the arena, Dren was slowing down. Ta's precise strikes had limited the Krell's movement. In a desperate move, Dren lunged forward, putting all his remaining strength into one powerful attack. Ta didn't dodge this time. Instead, he stepped into the attack, ducked under Dren's arm, and used the Krell's own momentum to flip him onto his back. The impact shook the arena floor. Dren lay stunned, unable to continue fighting. "Winner, Ta of Earth," the announcer called. The crowd erupted in cheers. Many were standing now, impressed by the human who had won 3 difficult matches in one day. Ta bowed to the crowd, then to his fallen opponent. He walked back to where Jin waited, his movements still steady despite the long day of fighting. "You did it," Jin said, amazed. 3 matches in one day. No one has ever done that before. "Their plan failed," Ta said. "What they meant to harm me actually helped." Lam approached them, looking worried. "The tournament officials want to see you. There are concerns about today's events." They followed Lam to a meeting room where several important-looking aliens waited. One, wearing ornate robes, stepped forward. "I am High Judge Korra of the Galactic Combat Championship," the alien said. "Serious accusations have been made." "What accusations?" Jin asked. "First, that your fighter used illegal enhancements. Second, that you have made false claims of sabotage to cover this." Jin felt anger rising in him. "That's not true. We were the ones who were sabotage. Tai's water was poisoned, and his suit was damaged." High Judge Korra looked at them with 4 stern eyes. "Do you have proof of these claims?" Before Jin could answer, Lam stepped forward. "I do, High Judge. I have medical scans showing the presence of Krell combat toxin in the human system. I also examined the damaged suit." Korra looked surprised. "You would testify to this, Lam. You risk much by taking sides." "I risk more by staying silent when I see cheating," Lam replied firmly. Another official spoke up. "We also have security recordings showing someone entering the human's preparation area when it should have been empty. The face is not clear, but the figure has 6 eyes." Murmurs spread through the room. Everyone knew which species had 6 eyes. "This is very serious," Korra said. "If proven true, those responsible will be banned from the championship forever." At that moment, the door opened. Vex stormed in, followed by several Krell warriors. "What is happening here?" he demanded. "Why is the human still competing? He should be disqualified for using enhancements." "We were just discussing that," Korra said coldly, "along with evidence suggesting you and your allies attempted to poison Commander Ta." Vex's yellow eyes widened. He looked from Korra to Ta, then to the images now displayed on the room's screens showing the sabotage attempt. "This will be fully investigated," Korra continued. "Until then, the tournament continues. Tomorrow's matches will proceed as scheduled." Vex glared at Ta with pure hatred. "This isn't over, human. Tomorrow, you face me in the final match. No tricks, no help, just you and me." "I look forward to it," Ta said calmly. The day of the final match arrived. The arena was packed with more aliens than ever before. News of the human fighter had spread across the galaxy. Everyone wanted to see the final battle between Tai and Vex. Tai prepared quietly in his room. The effects of the poison had worn off during the night. He felt normal again, though tired from the previous day's fights. "Are you ready?" Jin asked, checking Ta's new combat suit. The tournament officials had provided it after confirming the sabotage of his original gear. "Yes," Ta said simply. He had spent the morning reviewing recordings of Vex's previous matches, studying the Krell champion's fighting style. "Vex has never lost a match," Jin reminded him. "He's bigger, stronger, and more experienced in the arena." "But not smarter," Ta said, "and not more disciplined. His anger will be his weakness." When the time came, Ta walked to the arena with his head high. The crowd roared. Many aliens now called his name. Signs in different languages showed support for the human fighter who had overcome unfair challenges. Vex entered from the opposite side. The Krell champion looked confident despite the scandal. He raised his arms, and his supporters cheered loudly. High Judge Korra spoke before the match began. Today's final will determine the champion of the 531st Galactic Combat Championship. Both fighters have been scanned and are free of enhancements. This will be a fair match. The force field rose around the arena. Tai and Vex faced each other. Begin, Korra announced. Vex didn't charge immediately like Dren had. The champion was more careful. He circled Tai, looking for weakness. Your tricks won't work on me, human, Vex said. I have studied your fighting style. And I have studied yours, Tai replied calmly. Vex struck first, a powerful but controlled blow. Ta blocked rather than dodged, surprising the Krell. The impact hurt Ta's arm, but he didn't show it. He countered with 3 quick strikes to Vex's midsection. The Krell barely seemed to notice. The fight continued. Vex was indeed stronger and very skilled. His scales provided natural armor. Ta's usual strategy of striking pressure points was less effective. For the first time in the tournament, Ta found himself truly challenged. 2 minutes into the fight, Vex caught Ta with a powerful tail sweep. Ta fell hard but rolled away before Vex could press his advantage. The crowd gasped. The human was losing. In the stands, Jin watched anxiously. Beside him, Lam and Sil also looked worried. He needs to find a new approach, Sil said. The Krell's fighting style is too well suited against the human's techniques. Ta got back to his feet. He was breathing hard now. A cut had opened above his eye. He wiped away the blood and focused. You won't last 3 minutes, Vex taunted, just as I predicted when you first arrived. Something clicked in Ta's mind. He suddenly remembered the bet that had started everything. The aliens had wagered he wouldn't last 3 minutes. Now he had a plan. Ta changed his stance slightly. He appeared to be tiring, lowering his guard just enough to tempt Vex. The Krell champion saw the opportunity and moved in for a finishing blow. But it was a trap. As Vex committed to his attack, Ta noticed something he had seen in the recordings but hadn't fully understood until now. When executing his most powerful strike, Vex shifted his weight to his right leg, exposing a moment of imbalance. In that split second, Ta moved. Instead of blocking or dodging, he stepped into Vex's attack. He struck the inside of Vex's right knee while simultaneously pushing the Krell's shoulder. It was a perfect application of leverage and timing. The massive champion toppled. The fall was unexpected and awkward. Vex landed heavily on his back, his head hitting the floor hard. He lay stunned, unable to continue. The arena fell silent. Then the timekeeper announced, match duration, 2 minutes, 30 seconds. Winner, Tai of Earth. The crowd erupted. The human had won the championship in less than 3 minutes, exactly the time frame of the original bet. As Tai stood victorious, Jin rushed to him. You did it. You've changed everything. Indeed he had. In the days that followed, the Galactic Council granted Earth full membership in the galactic community. Trade agreements were signed. Cultural exchanges began. Before returning home, Tai addressed the council. Strength isn't everything, he said. Humans may not be the strongest species, but we adapt, we learn, and we never give up. Today was just the beginning of what we can achieve together. As their ship prepared to return to Earth, Jin looked at his friend. How does it feel to change the course of human history? Tai smiled slightly. It feels like we won a bet that no one thought we could win.